Oh my goodness, France relies on nuclear power for 70% of its electricity. This makes France the most nuclear dependent country in the world. And guess what? They use uranium to power it. But what happens when the uranium they use in France is actually stolen from Niger? And Niger kicked them out in 2023 and said they have to pay appropriate market rates for the uranium. Let's break it down in this video, because not only is America collapsing, but it looks like France kind of is too. Now, we are in the wonderful month of July. Down here in southeastern Africa, it's actually pretty cold. But over in France, apparently it was so hot that they were facing power grid failures. You know, the failures that they used to say were only reserved for sub-Saharan Africa? Oh my goodness. France is experiencing electricity outages. You know that in the United States, Texas has just had a basically record-breaking flood. Look, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it truly looks like there is some disruption happening in these old colonizer economies and in their natural landscapes. If we think about America, France, Great Britain, and even Portugal and Spain, they were some of the first countries to colonize Africa. And to be quite honest with you, if you are not aware, they also colonized Asia, Australia, basically the entire world. But these economies are shifting big time. And France, they are just the most recent one that is getting the brunt of everything that's happening. Now, understand, this deeper crisis has everything to do with the uranium supply that used to come from Niger, plus a rising anti-French alliance in the Sahel with Burkina Faso and Mali, drawing in both Russia and China. Let's continue to unpack what this means from a geopolitical, economic, and post-colonial standpoint. So France relies on nuclear power, allegedly because it actually stabilizes their grid and is increasingly fed by variable wind and solar power. But they have no uranium mines as their own, okay? And so, you know, when you don't have ownership over your own stuff, like we even talk about this when we talk about business. You know, I'm a marketing analyst. I've been an entrepreneur for 9 years, and there is a real risk when you are either relying on a W-2 or on outside sources, and France is figuring that out. They should have known this. They should have known that you cannot continue to pillage Niger forever like that. I don't know how they would think that would just last forever, or how they would even think the creator would be on their side with that one. But that's what they thought, okay? Because the country imports all of its uranium for its 56 reactors, according to Urano, formerly Arevia, France's state-controlled nuclear fuel company. The country's uranium imports are diversified among Niger, which is 15 to 20% historically, Kazakhstan, which is the world's top #1 producer, Canada, and Australia. Now, I'm gonna need you to hit the like button, because I know we're getting into some information that you may not be aware of. And if you just learned something new in this first 3.5 minutes, it's like, I think you should hit the like button. It's right there. I also think you should subscribe, and then you should also hit the bell notification just in case YouTube stops showing you our content. Like, we are journeying with us, a family of 7 that has traveled Southeastern Africa since 2020. Without going back to America, self-reliant by the grace of the Most High, the mighty one of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He has given us the power to thrive outside of America, and we are here to show you how to do the same. And listen, Africa's rising, and it's not just a conspiracy anymore. It's not like, oh, Africa's not really rising. Clearly, Africa's rising. And with Africa rising, there's also this balance that if Africa rises, certain other continents and countries kind of have to fall down a little bit. They kind of got to go back to how it was during maybe the Dark Ages, because listen, these power grid failures in France, I'm thinking they're not just going to be something that just happens in France, especially with President Donald Trump stating that he would be closing FEMA camps, that he would not be supplying. Oh my goodness, I saw a documentary yesterday that he will not be supplying funding for disasters because he does not believe in climate change. Now, I don't believe in climate change the way that a lot of scientists talk about it. I believe in it from the standpoint of prophecy. meaning the earth is changing because we are gearing up towards the end times. That's what I call climate change. The Most High is angry with certain continents and nations of people, okay? And listen, this is a perfect time to segue into the state of the diaspora, the urgent state of the diaspora. My goodness, the demand for this program has really just shocked my husband and I. But it shouldn't be such a shock because we have been creating curriculum for years for expats who have traveled to Tanzania, Kenya, Ghana, South Africa, Ethiopia, Egypt, Turkey, okay? We have helped hundreds and thousands of people relocate abroad. But here's the thing. I think 2025, right where we are right now in July, this is the most important season for you because this is not like 2020. This era is unlike anything we've ever seen before because this whole regime thing happening in America, and I'm using my words wisely here. Come on, we got to kind of speak on code, okay? This whole regime thing that country has going on is going to cause havoc, not just on the Black community, but on the European community, the white community. Americans are in crisis. And you know what happens in crisis? You have two options. You can actually come out on top on the other side of crisis, or you can be brought lower due to some of the issues that are happening. And so if you've been thinking of traveling to Africa, but you're like, I want to avoid corruption, I need to be in a safe area, listen, I told you. I've had 2 children while abroad. We've sold property while abroad. We run businesses from the States without going back and forth. We know a thing or two about how to create your dream life in Africa. See, imagine if you're from Virginia or Tennessee and you come in the state of the diaspora, which actually the 8th edition is this Sunday. I cannot wait to talk to the people this Sunday. But let's imagine you come in, right? And you speak to people that are heading to Botswana, Ghana, Cabo Verde, Seychelles, Mauritius. Heck, maybe somebody's even going to Turkey or Spain and they just also want to have some African countries in their portfolio of options because they plan on leaving America long term. Look, we welcome and invite you into the program, but there's one issue. It's been selling out super fast, and due to demand, I increased the rate from $100 to $150 because we want this to remain intimate. We don't want this to be the type of thing where you're 1 in 20 people that are just all over the place talking, being talked at. We actually have breakout room sessions where you're actually doing some work that we give you in the program. When we say it's a 90-minute intensive, we mean it's an intensive. And me as a marketing analyst in my profession, I tend to be that analyst that looks at all of the requirements, all of the things needed, asking you the critical thinking questions that you're going to be thankful for 5 years down the line, where you're like, oh, it's 2030. I'm so glad that she asked the uncomfortable questions to really help our family travel abroad sustainably for good. Because listen, there are countries in Africa that have a 41% tax rate. Okay, South Africa happens to be one of them. There are countries in Africa with a 30% tax rate if you make over $48,000. And listen, I happen to live in a country that is 0 tax for digital nomads, and even when you incorporate your business here, it's 15% flat tax, the best in Africa, hands down. Mauritius, Africa, obviously, it's truly the best. And you know, I'm like, I think more people need this information. This is what I wish we would have known when we traveled abroad. So I invite you to the state of the diaspora while spots last. Check it out at the link in the description. Now, can we talk about Niger's uranium wealth and the legacy of colonial ties real quick? Niger is one of the world's top uranium producers, okay? It exported around 2,000 tons annually in the last decade, with France historically as the main buyer at rates that were much lower than what they should have been at the market rate. So basically they were getting over on Niger, okay? They were getting over them really badly. Even after independence, companies like Arriva, now Orano, negotiated highly favorable prices for France. Critics argue these deals kept Niger poor. And let's not just say critic. The reality is them getting over on Africans in Niger who are owners of the land and the resources had kept them poor, right? This is why it's so important to charge market rates, to understand the value of what you offer, what your services is, what your business is. Even if you're in a W-2, the value of what you have contributed to that company, because I'm telling you, there is somebody with a neo-colonial mindset that wants to get over on you, and they may be black or white, they may be yellow, green, who cares? But there are people out there who are willing to get over on you. Let this also be a lesson. Do not do that, because it's happening all across the world. And I'm so happy that Niger stood up for themselves and said, listen, this has been going on for far too long. Even after independence, that's cool and all, but it's about time for you to get out. Not only are you going to get out, but you're going to pay the appropriate market rate at the end of the day, okay? Because at the end of the day, French had deep colonial roots in Niger and a lot of parts of West Africa, even somewhat in Madagascar and Mauritius as well. France is deeply rooted in the continent, okay? In 2023, uranium made up 70% of Niger's exports, but 5% of GDP. Did you hear that? I said uranium made up 70% of their exports, but 5% of their gross domestic product, meaning the amount of money that they contribute to their economy. How are they exporting 70% uranium and then 5% GDP? Do you see how horrible and treacherous this is? Leave a comment down below if you understand what I'm saying, and share this with 5 people. They can be Americans that need to understand this, why Africa must rise, because that is just really sad. I can't even put into words how dysfunctional that is, because the West exploits the resources and leaves them in poverty, okay? Now, let's talk about the 2023 coup in Niger and the threat to uranium exports. So this was all about economics. This was all about Niger, African sovereignty. This was all about them getting their due fair amount for their own resources, because again, the uranium comes out of the ground in Niger, okay? Like, let's put that into perspective. So in 2023, Niger's military overthrew President Mohamed Bazoum, the new leader. He suspended military cooperation with France, threatened to end uranium exports, and expelled the French troops. Now, France, the new government, had positioned itself as anti-imperialist, accusing France of colonial exploitation and neo-colonial interference. I would say that's about accurate. We will no longer be France's mining company, Colonel Amadou Adrama, spokesperson cited in France 24. So this was a France 24 news outlet that I'm reporting to you from. Now let's hop over to Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso may not be uranium rich, but it is politically crucial. As you can see, President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, the land of the upright people. Can we just get a round of applause for Burkina Faso real quick in the comments? Like, round of applause. Good job, Burkina Faso, land of the upright, righteous people. They are currently essentially leading a spiritual revolution at the end of the day. They are leading this African awakening, this revolution of like, hey, we can be entrepreneurs, we can own our technology, we can own our resources, and we can rely on ourselves and do business with ourselves. And then if other countries come in, they're gonna pay the appropriate price, period. That is what Burkina Faso is stating in public very boldly with their chest, like they're saying it and they're not afraid. And I just feel like this is the energy that we need in the end time. So all praises to the Most High for that, because he is truly calling his people to awaken. But unlike Niger, Burkina Faso doesn't export uranium at scale. It has exploration projects led by Australia's Orbis Gold, but no major commercial mining, okay? What Burkina Faso offers is political solidarity. After Niger's coup, Burkina Faso and Mali formed the Alliance of the Sahel states. By the way, these guys are cousins. They have their own passport, the Sahel Alliance. And they are literally, they're having their African Renaissance. And I'm here for it because it's reminiscent of the 1200s, okay? Think of the 1200s in Africa. Think of the ancient Songhai that had the Gold Coast, ancient Mali, Timbuktu. Like, oh my gosh, I'm just getting all the vibes thinking about it. I just love history and I love African history, and I just love that we're in the Renaissance. what a great time to be alive, okay? Because after that coup, they formed the Sahel Alliance and caused the expulsion of French military missions, also in Burkina, and condemned ECOWAS sanctions, okay? Now, those are made up of like Nigeria. I want to say Ghana is a part of the ECOWAS, Liberia, I believe Senegal still is. I think Sierra Leone still is, if I'm not mistaken. If you're West African, feel free to correct me, chime in the comments, help your cousins out so that we have the proper information from primary sources on the ground, okay? The Sahel bloc has declared its fight against neo-colonialism. The three leaders see France as the old master that they want to evict. They're like, it's time for you to get out, okay? And they said, and this is in Captain Ibrahim Traore's words, the Honorable, we will resist any foreign invasion together. Talk about unity. Oh my goodness, like you don't understand that they didn't even have to unify with 54 African. This is 3 African countries. That's all that's required to unify. Like I also want you to think about your life. You may feel like you don't have a lot of people for you. You may feel like it's impossible to get to Africa. But at the end of the day, like we were discussing about the state of the diaspora, you only need about 3 to 4 people that understand your vision and your mission. And oh my goodness, if you have a big family, y'all counting up that 3 to 4 people right there. Like small unity is more powerful than super popular explosive unity that can be divulged and basically corrupted, for lack of a better term, okay? So President Ibrahim Traore, Captain Ibrahim Traore, said that in Al Jazeera in 2023, okay? Now we need to go to Russia. Russia has a growing role in the Sahel region. And if you watch the video I did yesterday, which you should definitely check that out, like, I don't know why you wouldn't watch it. Like if you're here watching this, you should definitely watch that after, because we were talking about how American President Donald Trump is hosting 5 West African nations: Liberia, Senegal, Gabon, Mauritania, and and another one, okay? Go back to my video because I forget the 5th one. Drop it in the comments if you remember. But they are hosting them at the White House currently this week, like starting tomorrow, okay? While Russia is doing this on the continent. They have a growing role in this anti-French vacuum that sweeps Russia as well. The Sahel states see Moscow as an alternative ally, which they should. These are grown people, grown folks. They get to choose who they want to be their allies. A lot of African Americans and Americans in general are like, oh my gosh, don't trust Russia, don't trust China, don't have any allies. But listen, in the wise words of our Messiah Yahusha, do not forbade them. If they are not against us, they are for us. Do not forbade them. If they are not against us, then they are for us, period, okay? Because it's gonna take some strategy. Now, Nigeria's leader has requested security cooperation from Russia. Russia's foreign ministry has endorsed the AES bloc attacking Western colonialism, okay? And Russia's strategy in Africa rests on anti-colonial solidarity, as it should. This is all from Russia Today. Sahel nations stand against neocolonialism 2023. And if you were not aware, we are also in the middle of the BRICS summit that happened in Brazil. That's probably not getting covered on CNN. We know why. Hit the like button if you're like, oh snap, she's giving me information that I didn't even understand what's happening. CNN's not telling me. They're only talking about this flood. And you know, my prayers go out to those of you who are in Texas that were impacted by this flood, because that's very, very difficult. But now we got to zoom over to China, okay? Because they obviously have a stake in the game as well. China's stakes in Niger and Burkina Faso. China is the largest investor in Africa overall, period, with a much less ideological approach than Russia in mining, okay? CNNC, which is China's national nuclear corporation, has uranium stakes in Niger. Chinese companies hold exploration licenses in Burkina Faso for gold and uranium. China has avoided taking sides in the Coup crisis, but Chinese media coverages emphasizes Africa's right, saying they have a human right to reject Western interference, and I have to agree with that as well. They're promoting stability for Belt and Road investments. African countries must make sovereign choices without Western coercion, right? We should all be free to make choices. Again, I liken this analogy to like if you were in a bad relationship and somebody just beat you up, they socked you in your eye day and night and choked you and all these things. You would want to get out of that. That can be very difficult in those beginning stages. But now Africa, especially West Africa, is saying, okay, this isn't sustainable. We can't continue to live like this. Our youth can't live like this. And you may say, why don't other African leaders pick up on this? And the C word, okay? Corruption. Some other African leaders in other regions get paid very handsomely to put their people down. Ibrahim Traore and the president of Mali and Niger are like, we don't need no more money. We got resources. I think we're good. Let's start to be less self-focused and focused on the youth, because that's true self-love for the African. Now listen, European media has also recognized these risks, okay? Let's break it down real quick together. And again, I'm gonna urge you to hit the like button, because what I'm gonna share right now is about to blow your mind, okay? Listen. If you do not follow what happens in the expat community and the international community with digital nomad visas and that sort of thing, historically countries that would promote digital nomad visas, self-employed entrepreneurship visas, these were countries that had economies that were not doing that great, okay? So like small countries like Bali, Indonesia, sometimes Croatia had a few digital nomad type of options. Obviously Mauritius, Seychelles, Namibia, who else had options like that? It was mostly like Asian countries at first. When we talk about the historical standpoint of digital nomad visas that started to erupt in like the 2020-2022 era. But listen, y'all, France and Italy have launched digital nomad visas to promote their economy. One, we know that these European nations have dying populations. Two, they are having grid failures. Three, they do not have skilled people in their economies anymore. And Italy just put out something and said in the next 5 years, which is going to be 2030, they are welcoming 500,000, yes, 500,000 non-EU, and the EU is comprised of a bunch of nations in Europe, non-EU immigrants to come and work for their worker shortage. Let me tell you what this means. Let's synthesize this information together. Europe is declining quickly. European economies are not doing well. And they're like, you know what? We got to go with the whole digital nomad thing too. We need some people to come in, not only digital nomads who can bring resources, but we need skilled labor. We need skilled workers. We don't have the resources to keep this scalable anymore. And of course, we know everything that's happening with America, but I want to know what you think about this. Is all of this a coincidence? Is this just like, oh, it's just regular life, it's just everything's fine? Or does this signal the end of European and America empires? And if it does, what do you think that you should be doing now? Or what do you think that you are called to do right now to ensure your legacy for your children's children? Because in the book of Proverbs, it's very clear. A righteous, wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Shalom, shalom. I'll see you in the next video.